Y'all ready to get this party started? Appreciate y'all in your patience. Hope you guys have some good grub in you. Thank you, Jerklicious. Jerklicious. Everybody here for Jerklicious. For those of you who do not know us, my name is Rico Lamitte. And I'm Fred Smith. And I've been in the cannabis industry on the legal side now for about 5 years. Helped 2 companies go public, 2-time TEDx alumni, and got a pretty diverse story, diverse background in the industry. A lot of people ask me what drives me, and I always tell them that I'm karma-driven but money-motivated. And there's a lot of meat on the bone in this industry, and it really, really perplexes me that everybody snipes at each other. And there's a lot of stuff going on in the industry, especially right now, that I'm made more aware of during the pandemic, thanks to this gentleman right here. I believe the Illuminati. No, he really doesn't. And I think it's really important right now, because there's a huge corporate and government takeover going on, it's right in front of us that we stop taking advantage, or taking each other for granted, and start taking advantage of each other's gifts, our talents. And that's generally why I started CANiPRENEUR with this guy right here, Fred. We have a 2-headed company, CANiVISION and CANiPRENEUR. CANiVISION is kind of like the Vice News of the cannabis industry. What we do is we shed light on issues in the cannabis industry that are not particularly mainstream. You see a big news story on Forbes, Benzinga, Green Market Report. What we do is we go directly to that community and find out the other side of it, because there's a lot more to that story, and it's more beneficial to everybody, whether you are on the business, the wellness, or the lifestyle side of the industry. You need the full picture. 8 out of 10 of the top companies in the industry pre-COVID are out of business on all of those companies' lists, right? He's not here tonight, but the gentleman that helped me get my start in this industry, Virgil Grant, he was going through a lot of stuff during the pandemic. Nobody knew about that. And we turn around, and there was only 3 of the original Black pre-ICO owners in this industry out of 185 licenses. Yeah. And nobody knew that. We were so worried about Donald Trump and his racist texts and all that other bullshit. We had no idea that all this shit was going on behind the scenes because we were caught up in our emotion, right? So fast forward to where we are today, it's launching CANiPRENEUR. So CANiVISION is all about, it's a decentralized media broadcast company. We have broadcasters in 8 different locations in the U.S., the Northeast, Southeast, Midwest as well, and what we do is we go to the other side of all these big stories. CANiPRENEUR is all about providing solutions across the supply chain that are vetted, period. What we've lost over the pandemic is an opportunity to get together like we are right now for events, and that's the heart, the soul, the beating heart of our industry is, me being able to see Kika in the room and tell her, oh, this is going down in the Central Valley. Did you hear about that? Right? I can talk to Jason, and be like, yo, did you hear about this? It's going on in the retail, and you can give me some information. We've had none of that, and so you have people going in their silos. We need to stop that, because while we were asleep at the wheel, Jesus didn't take it. So, do you remember to say something to that? Fred, please tell us a little bit of something that we can grab our guests and get them on stage, please, man. He's a Russell Simmons of this shit.
What's going on, guys? I'm Fred Smith. Thank you all for coming out. This is seriously a blessing, and I'm honored to be here. My story is a little bit different than Rico's, obviously. I was a Marine, or people say I'm still a Marine. I know, right? So sometimes you get caught up in your old stuff. So my thing is, I actually served out in the Persian Gulf. I did some real crazy real-world operation stuff. And so when Rico had contacted me, like I had a group this time last year, around 2,200 people. We were talking about conspiracy theories. But the difference was I knew what page everything was on because I had a secret clearance. Follow me? So I was like, don't believe a word I say. I don't care. I want to surround myself with critical thinkers, not critical people, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? The whole world stopped. All the water was out of the water, right? The ships were on the rocks. Everybody had a chance to really stop and think about their lives. Does that make sense? So when Rico had approached me, he was ready to pick up a gun and kill somebody. And I'm not kidding when I say that. So had I not started that room with one of my other buddies, shout out to Taylor Welch. Yeah, we love Taylor. I don't think that he'd be sitting here right here, and I'm not kidding with that. So I talked him off the ledge. I invited him into the group, and he got a brain transplant. And that's what inspired him to start CANiVISION. And then he started struggling with it because other people couldn't see that vision. And I was fighting on Facebook and all the social media platforms to say, hey, I don't care if you guys don't believe me. Like, I've done this real world. You know, like, you know how you in the trap and you really doing it. Some people playing like they, you know what I'm saying, they want to be. So it's the same dynamics, you know what I'm saying? I was out there creating news as it happened. So I might know what I'm talking about. So finally, I wasn't labeled the crazy one. People started really becoming critical thinkers, and we had some major breakthroughs. I mean, up to the point where, like, even one of our members in Texas, remember I had that crazy storm? She organized her whole community and saved her whole community from starving. So that's how big, when Rico started talking to me, he saw CANiVISION, I'm just like, yo, let's go. Like, I don't even have to think twice about this. Because he saw the bones, but we focus on ethos, pathos, and logos. So if you have your own businesses, and if you're struggling with these three things, this is what we redefined CANiVISION with when I came on board. Does that make sense? So from there, we had to vet people out of Rico's life because they were sucking the living life out of this guy. You know, and I'm just like, you've changed my life already just from coming to some of these parties. How many of y'all have not been to one of Rico's parties? We meet some high-level people, though, when you do go, right? For the people who are there, it's carefully curated. And that's how I like to live my life. It's my life. I only have one of them. You know, I've been at the top of the box, and I've been homeless 3 times. So nobody can't really tell me exactly what it has taken me to get here because success is a blueprint. And the problem that I was discovering when I finally got kicked out of, I literally scaled 7 to 10 figure businesses. I did 5 of them in my lifetime. 5. That's crazy. I'm from the hood. I don't have a degree. I'm hanging out with all these people. And I'll say to impress you, but I'm impressed upon you that when I saw this man in this industry, and it wasn't until I actually when I actually took part in the plant, and he nurtured me to help me get there, that's when I got more creative. We had to replace some stuff that he had going on, and that's how we're in this room today. And I just want to thank everybody for being here. We've had people all around the country show us love. East, you know, all the coast. You know what I'm saying? This is one plant. In my heart, you know, we should be more plant-centric. So I'm showing everybody exactly how the magic trick is revealed, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? We all have these gifts inside of us. My dad died on 4/20, and I'm just like, yo, if that's not a clue, you know, I don't know what else to say. Do you follow me? So I'm a little bit different from y'all. So that's why when we did CANiPRENEUR, the thing that he hated when he was doing it previously is what we can fix right now, if that makes sense. So through the collective right here, that's what we want to do is just grow and scale. Everybody can eat. And I may be a dreamer, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to do it. You know what I'm saying? So thank you. John Lennon. Everybody, John Lennon. Everybody give a round of applause for John Lennon. We like to have fun. Everybody say some time.
I really appreciate you, brother. And let me just back up. Yes, it's going back up right now. It's my absolute pleasure. I have some of the most important people in the cannabis industry right now. And what we believe at CANiVISION and CANiPRENEUR that the cannabis industry is a 3-level stool. You have wellness, business, you have lifestyle, and without one of those working with the other 2, everybody falls, right? So I thought it was very, very important to have 3 people, and I was lucky that all 3 of them said yes and come out with us. So it's my absolute pleasure to bring out our guests. So Fred, Mr. Russell Simmons of the
Thank you all for coming out. God bless you.
All right, we're going live. Gonna pop that, make sure the camera, make sure the ZV1 is playing.
Yeah, that's what, there's no camera.
Make sure the good camera's on. Okay, cool. You good? introduce our guests. Come on. All right. So first up, out of Chino Hills, California.
That's Snoop Dogg, right? The hill next to Chino.
We have a good friend of mine. She is a mother, an educator, a truly inspirational person in the industry. Teaches mindfulness. She is the CEO, co-founder of Kindness EBK Wellness. She's called me. Co-founder of Bridges program, which is connecting mainstream and the cannabis industry in ways from a woman's point of view, doing excellent things for generations, as a matter of fact. And so glad to have Mskindness B Ramirez come up to the stage. Up next, we have the Wizard of Oz himself, the cannabis industry's longest tenured, longest consecutive years of running as a retail owner. In 2001, from San Francisco to Los Angeles to the desert, the Palm Desert out there.
Palm Desert too.
Yeah, and I always tell him, always joke around with him and tell him like, Caitlyn Jenner's in the way. This dude really can't beat Gavin Newsom. Yeah, he really does have the heartbeat of the cannabis industry. And I've known him for a few years now, for about 4 years now too, Mr. Jason Beck, Mr. Global Alliance. Good job, y'all, brother. And finally, inspiration of the people herself. She's been making the rounds lately. A lot of good things. Speaking out for the people. And I always tell people, like, I was always enamored by Kika Keith because she would step up to the mic when we were testifying, like 800 people in the room back in the day, the calm demeanor, and she just killed these motherfuckers. Kika Keith with Siawa, with the Life Development Group, Gorilla Wellness. She's been doing it for the people, and one of the most inspirational people that I know doing on the lifestyle side. So a little breakdown of what we're doing tonight. We're going to have a community conversation, right? We talk a little bit about what happened over the pandemic, how these three people are continuing to thrive, and what to expect next. So the information you're getting tonight is extremely exclusive, three very different points of view. It's important that we come together because it doesn't happen. Period. You have people that have really gone into their silos. You have
at least not for 18 months.
Right. And people have gotten raided. People have gotten their entire lives snatched from them. And Dana's in there. My lawyer's in there. Hi, Dana. She was fighting against this FD59 about a month ago. Eminent domain came back in the middle of the pandemic, and people were getting their entire roads taken from them, and there's no appeal. Period. And people don't know this because we're so worried about our feelings right now. Nobody's worried about getting their money, right? So that's what we need to do. That's why these three individuals together, and we're going to go down the line. We're going to ask them what helped them thrive over the pandemic, what exactly happened from a wellness point of view, from a business point of view, from a lifestyle point of view. connecting the dots across industries. And so Jason, you've been a well-known mover and shaker on the business side of things. Obviously, you always about your shit. First, to bring people up at the register when California converted into retail legality. You really developed a whole new lane over the pandemic, man, and total connecting people, the business side of the equation. And I always joke about him, like, the political side, because he really helps candidates move forward if they're for the plan, if they're for legalization. Doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat, it's all about we need to have a legal industry, right? And you come from a lot of adversity yourself, and you found a lot of love in the plant, found a lot of purpose in the plant. Tell us a little bit about how you were able to shift during the pandemic, and what really changed on the business side of things that made you really shine and come out on top.
Well, I think first of all, being in cannabis for so long, I've weathered so many different storms that I had to look at this as approach that this is just a different storm to weather overall. From the business side, how this really changed the most, I think, probably one of my most proudest days too during the whole pandemic. Mayor London Breed in San Francisco came out and tried to close down the dispensaries in San Francisco. The whole community lobbied extremely hard in the next couple of days and was able to get her to switch her position, which in turn, San Francisco became declared the workforce, essential workforce. The community activated somehow. So we were reading this group chat, just watching everyone hitting their targets, and it was just amazing to watch the coordination that the cannabis industry executed on during that day. Then following that, Gavin Newsom, we also put pressure on him. Gavin Newsom then declared as essential workforce. Then you had LA City and LA County also declare as essential workforce, and then that just created a whole ripple effect across the entire rest of the country, which is the same thing that cannabis did when we legalized medical cannabis in 1996. And this is what you have seen as far as the whole growth of the whole cannabis industry going forward. The only state, unfortunately, that didn't deem their workforce essential workforce was Massachusetts, and that was because the governor didn't want their so proximity with other states. They didn't want to be attracting other citizens from other states to come in and procure cannabis. So they only made that for their medical side, which their medical patients were only able to obtain if they were residents in Massachusetts. So I think that's really how a lot of that changed. In a lot of ways, as far as the business side, that's the most significant aspect for the business, because in the tragic event of something similar like this happening on any type of scale, you already know that if you're in the cannabis industry, you're always going to have a job because you're part of the essential workforce. You're on treated as the same level as a nurse, as a doctor, as an EMT, fire department, police department, and that is a big fucking deal.
Please, brother. And Kika, I always say this from the heart, everything we do on the business side of the industry, everything we do on the wellness side of the industry, it all comes from the lifestyle side, The entire globe is moving forward, but if it wasn't for America, Jamaica, and Amsterdam, we're the only ones that care about lifestyle. We're the only ones that care about culture. Everybody else cares about medical, they care about industrial health, right? What you've been able to do is really defibrillate, the heart of everything. Like halfway through the pandemic, I was going through bullshit Zooms that they had. Cat Factory was running, and there was literally like 800 people in these live meetings that we had before the pandemic. Like halfway through, I think it was November, October, it's 15 people. Right? How are we able to maintain and really come out and flourish towards the end and be in the position you are now of power and be such a strong voice for the people? that are the lifestyle community in our game.
Shit, because we didn't stop. You know, they say consistency is the key to breakthrough.
Right.
And when you speak about lifestyle, we moved on a very different mission, right? Because it wasn't about the money for the money, right? It was about repairing the wrongs, and that was at the heart of me, especially being a mama of 3 girls, right? And when we talk about generational wealth, it wasn't just about the licenses. And so the spirit that we moved with, whether it was one person in the room or 800, we were coming with the same message, right? Because we understood that this was, I mean, we hear the politicians say it over and over, and that's what had me move the way that I did into the industry. They struck a nerve after being raised by community activists my whole life. I understood our history. So when these black politicians came into the room, Senator Bradford, Assemblyman Reginald Jones Sawyer, you know what I'm saying? When they came into the room, Herb Weston said, black people, this will be the last time that you'll ever have an opportunity to be a part of the new industry, right? And they compelled us. This was in 2017. And so I know mothers and daughters that sold their inheritance in order to get properties because you needed a property to be in this. And so when you move from that, and when you come, I was raised up in South Central LA, and my parents moved through inner cities across this country. We witnessed the devastation of the war on black and brown people. And so I came in here, and when I saw that the social equity program was designed to fail, it was just in me that this one going to on my watch. I'm not going to look back 25 years from now and say that I didn't do an active role to be a part of ensuring, right, that we were a part of this industry and had a great share, proportionate to what we were disproportionately arrested for. So when you say, and it started from what I saw in 2017, when they changed from the 2 to 1, right, and didn't have us coming in as they were bringing in the pre-ICOs, and let us not have that first mover advantage. I understood that very well from having a product in Whole Foods since 2008 and having a first to market product. And I understood that value. And they devalued that the whole way through. So when the pandemic hit, for me it was a reprieve. Because if you remember, we filed a lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles, right? We waited 2 years on properties, and our property was $12,000 a month. And mind you, I got to be low income in order to participate in the program, like all the rest of my people.
That makes so much sense, right?
Right. So, okay, well, okay, we don't go with that. But then we wait 2 years, and then the first come, first serve, they let people in early? Wait, what? Nah. That's when you started seeing us wearing those equity award shirts, right? And we meant it. We didn't mean it in a violent way, but we meant that we were going to have a sustained effort to make sure that no matter what the laws are in Measure M, said social equity and social justice,
Right.
so all the things that were in the rule of law, we were going to hold them accountable, and we weren't going to stop until it was set forth, and so we filed that lawsuit. We went in March, right when the pandemic was started, so now we're prepared to go to court to file a temporary restraining order. And then the city settled for 100 additional licenses, right? And so one of the things that we saw for me, when we talk about wellness, you know, and cannabis is a big part of that, you know, and I really look at the cannabis as a plant and its healing and its wellness.
Right.
And I understood from being raised by parents that taught me that from early on, whatever you need comes from this earth. And so then I used that time to take a moment to breathe, to get back centered. I saw that as a great opportunity, and so we did that. We took our time writing down, praying, getting centered. Me and my daughters and my mother hung it up in the house, and that allowed us to plan. That allowed us to get on and utilize. We started doing webinars every Sunday with the Social Equity Owners and Workers Association and galvanized and organized. Kept going to the neighborhood council meetings because this is just the beginning. And so we just use this as an opportunity to get better, as you all are, and recondition to change some things around and understand that the fight is with the people and with the policies and with the politics, and then we do business. So that's how we kind of transformed and moved on back now, ready to do business.
Okay. Yeah. So moving forward.
Wait, I gotta give a shout out to Kika.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'm not naive, y'all. I'm not in LA. I'm not fighting the big fights in the large cities. But, Pomona is where I'm proud to be, and that's where I taught high school, and my heart and soul are. And Kika came out for us because when we interfaced, we were only talking about 8 licenses. And we still were trying to get those 8 licenses up and running, to be clear. This was in 2018, right, before the pandemic, and she came out, she showed up with the family, and we urged the city. I sat down with the mayor as a result of your guidance and her energy that flowed through me that got us a fairly progressive equity program in a tiny, tiny city because of the work that this woman is doing in LA. So just wanted to give her flowers right now.
Big props, big props. So moving forward into right now, on the wellness side of the industry, or wellness industry overall, pre-pandemic is $5.5 trillion. That's without the cannabis being added to it. The CBD is blowing up, as we all know. Delta 8, love it or hate it.
No comment.
Delta 8. And Delta 8 is doing its thing. But you have a lot of mindfulness that has been spread throughout the pandemic. And it's commonplace. It's common for everybody to say, okay, I have a therapist now. Okay, I'm doing yoga now. Okay, I'm paying attention to my breathing for you. You always make sure I'm breathing. And where do you see us going in the next 12 to 18 months on the wellness side of the industry?
Are you breathing?
It's hard to breathe in this mic.
You know, you said something, Kika. You said it forced you to go inward. It forced me to take that break that I needed and to consume the plant that heals me.
Right.
That's what it did for many people that I'm talking to. Where do I see wellness going? I see it going to a more personal place. I see consumers beginning to think about what they need. What are their physical needs? What are their spiritual needs? Who is the community around them? And who do they want close? Who do they want to touch or just do elbows with or fist bumps with? And this is all happening as we evolve as humans through this process. Where does cannabis play a role in that? I mean, for me, obviously, it helps my whole brain and my whole mind and my whole body, and I feel like I need to drink it and eat it and bathe in it and rub it on me and smoke it and vape it and do all that. But I think the average consumer is just looking for something that makes them feel better, that contributes to the absence of things like anxiety, depression, pain, and feeling overwhelmed and disconnected. We're going to incorporate cannabis into the beauty industry like we haven't seen. Because what I feel like the tech that was produced from the pandemic, there's all these side hustles, right? Like now everybody got TikTok. You can figure out how to do digital downloads. How can I make an extra $600 a month?
Clubhouse hustling.
Clubhouse hustling. Go Cap. Go Cap, Jimmy. So, I got jokes. Okay, so where is it going? It's going to a more self-centered place. It's going to a place of reflection where we're asking our bodies what they need, and then we're looking for credible and reputable sources to fulfill that need.
Got it. Now, Jason, the industry is bigger than it ever was in terms of visibility. Right? We all know about the trap. And I would actually argue that the trap did a lot better in the pandemic than
The trap is traptastic right now. From the business side.
Right, on the business side, you see mergers, SPACs, $600 million deals, billion-dollar deals. Jay-Z's in the game now, right? It's never been as visible as it is now. You have all these large corporations, these large funds that are getting in to the industry. They're backing these companies that we never thought would ever happen within our lifetime. It's 10, 20 years ago. Where do you see the industry 12 to 18 months from now, from the business point of view, as an owner in the industry?
12 to 18 months from now, you're going to see kind of more of a slow growth because a lot of the people that are have invested in the cannabis space have their investments and their chips, a lot of them in place. So it's going to be harder to find a lot of certain capital unless you're getting involved in some of these larger stacks that have basically kind of just drawn a lot of the cash out of the room as far as in the investment side. As far as on the regular business, it's still going to be a lot of expansion because there's still more municipalities coming on. There's still more states that just came on medical and with adult use. And so those markets like New Jersey and what forth, or New York, those are all going to be big growth segments where you're going to see a lot of jobs created, a lot of winners and a lot of losers. You know what I mean? That's just kind of how business works. And that's why you have to make sure that you're always remaining vigilant, paying attention to what's going on, and making sure that you're trying to stay ahead of the curve with everything that's trending in the market space. You know, cannabis is always going to be selling. It's, you know, to earlier on one thing you said, I wanted to say, you know, that in reality, cannabis is the last natural resource that has yet to be commoditized on the planet. And so we all need to keep that in mind as we are putting together our business plans and looking at a more global outlook, because ultimately this is a global market space, not even though it's just hampered currently in just within California, but ultimately when we have a federal legalization and we ultimately have the possibility of having interstate trade, because just recently we had the MORE Act, which passed, which was the first time Congress ever voted to deschedule cannabis. And just recently we had two Republican congressmen, Congressman out of Ohio, Dave Joyce, and Congressman out of Alaska, Don Young, introduced a bill to deschedule also. So now, as far as a policy concern, we have an agreement between Republicans and Democrats that descheduling makes sense, as opposed to prior where we had something more similar to the States Act, which would hamper interstate commerce, which would hamper that and would create a more protection-based market space with more artificially high prices just because it's a limited market share and commerce cannot commence.
So where do you see us at the end of this? So 18 months from now?
We're probably going to be in a lot of the same spaces that we are right now currently. You're not going to, you know, unless you're partnering up with a SPAC or you have found some other type of source of investment to move these projects along, a lot of them are going to kind of remain stagnant, unfortunately.
The teacher in the room wants you to explain what SPAC is.
Yeah, please tell the people
SPACs
what
are
a
the
SPAC is.
greatest thing in the world, apparently.
I thought Delta 8 was.
No, that's State 90. So we have, SPAC stands for Special Purpose Acquisition Corporation. And how a SPAC works is a typical SPAC will raise anywhere from 50 to 100, 100 million. I think, was the recent one today raised 200?
This is over, just over.
Maybe 150, something around there. Because the trick with a SPAC, okay, and this, I've learned a lot about these SPACs. I was in talks with doing one with a couple of groups of people. And the trick with a SPAC is that you can raise all of this capital, this $100 million, right? And you have to spend 80% of that on your very first purchase. And so there's only so many cannabis companies that have those types of evaluations, so it's harder for them to be able to put these kinds of deals together. And so
It's higher risk.
well, it is not necessarily, it depends on where you're standing. So from the investor side, if you're not happy with the transaction they're about to make, you can pull your money out before they do it, and then they could ultimately end up high and dry as far as on their financial commitment. But we'll see where all this goes. I'm definitely watching and paying attention.
Now, Kika, so you look at Japan, you look at France, you look at all these other countries, they love America. That's what makes America different than every other country is everybody wants to be America. They wear our clothes, they love our athletes, they love our actors and actresses, you know, they love American culture. Right? So cannabis culture is who we are, right, as a people. Right? It's healing. Before there was any medical company in the industry, there was somebody's grandmother with a cannabis elixir that knew that this is going to help you feel better. This is going to help you with your inflammation, your headaches, and all of that. Right? The culture side of the industry. some see it a lot more visible right now. You see cookies doing their thing, spreading all over the globe.
Yeah, but that's a cross. Why you give
I'm saying this is on a global level. You see, lifestyle companies are starting to be more global brands. We can talk about that too. Like real cultural brands. But you see us being more visible, right? And how do we preserve that? And where do you see the realness of the industry? Because that's not us, right? Like a lot of stuff you see on the mainstream, a lot of stuff is making it across different state borders, a lot of stuff is making it across different global regions is not the truth, right? Where do you see the true soul, the spirit of the industry 12 to 18 months from now?
Well, if I have anything to do with it, it starts from educating the source of the culture to the importance of what this moment in time is.
Right.
And then it's engaging enough to understand how much our voices can be heard on the policy development side, from the local to the state to the federal side. And if we don't start engaging now, 12 months, 18 months, when all these bills pass, the MORE Act that has these exclusions for felons, right, or the Safe Banking Act that doesn't allow for community development banking, right? We get 1% of the bank of loans.
The MORE Act, not so safe banking.
Right, and so, 12 to 18 months from now, if we're not engaged in the process, we'll see this it'll pass us by. And so I think, what's important in developing the culture is going out to the community, right? The community has not been engaged. They haven't engaged in some working groups. They haven't engaged in some policy making. We're not engaged in the trade associations. And so it's really critical at this point for us to continue in these movements.
Right.
And these movements go out to the streets for the people who should be getting across the line with us, right? We need more folks to mount up and amplify the voice, and I think that's when you'll start to see the true culture come out. Because you're right,
You see cookies out there because they're deep pocketed.
Right.
Is what I'm getting at, right?
Yes.
What is being presented on the global stage is cash, right? Whoever has the money is out there. But we have the real culture, the real lifestyle side of the industry. If you're successful right now, if you've made it through a lot of what we've made it through in such a heavily taxed, heavily regulated industry, chances are you've done a little bit on the trap side, right? You've done a little bit. Allegedly. Right? Allegedly. Right? So
that will not legally protect you.
Well, the culture comes out through the brands, right? We know cookies because they build a brand. And so we have the ability, we're the most creative people on the planet, I just have to say. And we have the ability to create these products. And if we understand the rules and regulations and how to create the packaging and how to source and all of those pieces, we start educating ourselves and understanding the process. Enough of us who know the information, share it with those who have these products and ideas, you'll start to see the culture come out in those products that are coming to the market. And that's when you see us thriving, right? And if enough of us are opening businesses, enough of us who don't look like us give us the opportunity to get on the store shelves, you'll start to see that culture come out in the variety of people that will be bringing great products to market, will be bringing a whole other energy, will come out of the commercialized side, will have a purpose behind it, but it takes all of us getting together as we're doing here and start to influence the culture and provide the education and the means and the secrets and the codes to the people who are looking to get into this industry, and that's how we grow together as an industry. And that's when you'll see us thrive.
All of that.
all of that.
All of that.
So all of us on stage, we've been involved in the game on both sides of the tracks. Los Angeles is the mecca of the cannabis industry, right? Like it or not, whether it's the perfect entity to follow, like down into that pit, which a lot of other states are doing, that's always debatable, right? So my question is, The landscape now looks almost unrecognizable to what we knew it as 18 months ago, right? So what would you say the identity of the industry is right now from a wellness standpoint? Ms. Kindness. What is
the order?
What is?
I would use a different question.
That's what,
I feel like I got your question.
What
Ask
needs-
that question again.
what needs to be done to preserve the community, the wellness community?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see.
So honestly, everything you could just say. No. I think it's critical that we continue to connect personally.
Because we're in a good place right now.
We're in a great place. One of the
We
things,
come out of the pandemic. You think that people are going to stop going to the therapists, or people are going to stop?
no, they're dying to get back to physical touch. They're dying because that's what we crave as humans. We need it. And so we have found alternative ways of connecting online because we had to. Because we also adapt. That's what we do as humans. But we cannot wait to do this. Look how many people are in this room right now with no mask on. I'm not trying to call everybody out. I'm just saying that we truly crave this physical connection. So the industry has to support that by showing up. We've had a lot of changes over the last 18 months in business and finance and infrastructure because the folks who were okay going into the pandemic came out even better on the other side of the pandemic. And you know what I mean by that. And those of us who continue to just stronghold and connect and find ways to buckle down are still here. But in fact, we're going to come back to these grassroots movements where we connect in rooms like this, where we look at people who don't look like us, which is, you know, what the work I do is all about.
It's important.
It's necessary. It's critical because
It's essential.
it's essential. Because this is how you make sure that the culture, the actual culture, doesn't die. And so I laughed when you said cookies because I felt shame. Like, man, cookies is representative of culture? No,
That's what the world sees.
that's what the world sees.
Exactly.
So it needs to continue to be like what you said here, doing this, and then everybody here goes back to their respective communities to take this education forward so we can keep doing the shit that we gotta do. I mean, until we federally legalize, really, we can decide how this goes if we work hard enough.
What about you, Jason? How do we preserve what we built? You know, like it or not, you know, the business acumen in the industry is stronger than it ever has been, right? You have a lot of haves and have-nots. You know, we really spread apart from each other there. Like, how do we preserve the soul of where we all came from, you know, going forward?
It's funny because I had a feeling we were going to ask something like this tonight. And I was actually outside thinking about it just in my head. The vision that I picked up in my head. How many of you guys know the Target shopping center in West Hollywood on La Brea and Santa Monica Boulevard? Okay? If you know that shopping center, then you know that there is only one business there that was there prior to Target because they bought that whole block up. And that is the Formosa Cafe. And why was he able to still be the only business when that whole block was developed? It's because he owned his own real estate. And he didn't want to take the offer to sell. And it was not an eminent domain project. Okay? And so the best thing that I can tell people is to make sure that you are able to secure yourself in your business as much as you humanly possibly can. Like, make that your home. Make that where you lay your eggs, and where you know what I mean, like that is your baby. Protect that with everything you possibly can in life.
I love it, man. Gems. A lot of people, yes, indeed. A lot of people don't realize, like, this whole thing is a real estate game. Like, it's not.
It always comes back to that.
It always comes back.
You can
to
have a
real
license,
estate.
but if you don't have anywhere to put it,
You don't own
can't
that
do
shit.
it.
You're at the will of the game, right? The house always wins. Alright? So Kika, what do we do to preserve the soul, the heart, the spirit of our industry, where we came from, right? Like that cookies question I just had just right now. And I said that because there's no hate the cookies or anything like that. But we all here know we see things different. And cannabis in LA is very different than cannabis in San Fran. Very different than cannabis in Detroit. Very different than cannabis in Chicago, right? How can we show the world that just because you are not the most lucrative company right now, not the most privileged company, that you're the realest, right? Like, how can we preserve that? Because the realness is what brings everybody to the game in the first place, right?
That's right. Locking arms with each other. My goal when I came in here, after having a beverage manufacturing company and distribution, and saw that if someone didn't have a Liz, I didn't have what I needed to go into Whole Foods, that one little piece. And so I also saw those same elements in coming into this, that if we didn't lock arms and create a supply chain with every single license type, with people that we're co-opting or sharing some sort of interest with, that we wouldn't see ourselves move into that other side that you're saying, right? That mecca that we want to get to.
Right.
And so I think this is a perfect time right now. In Los Angeles, locking arms with Fresno, Sacramento, and Oakland, and we look at New York and New Jersey, because that interstate commerce will come into play and it will become federally legal. And so it is important right now that we take these moments and get past the superficial talking and really see how we can build infrastructure in our communities, how we have a bigger goal in mind, not just about ourselves and our own licenses and our own generational wealth for ourselves and our family, but how we start making a commitment with each other in our business endeavors today. Not waiting till we get there 5 years from now, but how do we start co-opting and working together, and when we start having those real conversations, get past all of the greed, and do this in a seriously engaging way, that's when we start seeing the spirit start to move. That's the difference, y'all, between all these other consumer products. It's coming from the earth, so there's real spirit that moves behind it as well, right? So when you lock arms on something like this, and then you give back, because you're recognizing the harms that it took, the blood and the sweat and the tears, the brothers and sisters that are still locked up, those kids that are left without mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters, and I can go on, right? Until we recognize that this is at the foundation of what this industry is, and we all make a commitment to do and give. And that's what we talk to each other about before we start talking about equity and profit sharing and revenue distribution. When we start talking about that first, that's when the spirit moves, and that's when this industry grows, and you'll see it picking up in Barbados and Jamaica and over in Japan and all the rest of the places you're talking about.
I want a do-over.
I want a do-over because you just made me think about it, and like we're talking about wellness. There is no achieving what you are talking about without first honoring what we are lining over, right? That's the wellness, like the earth. We have to touch it, we have to grow it, we have to cultivate it, we have to consume it to really understand it, to let it begin healing our bodies, our minds, and our souls, for us to really understand what we are locking arms over. Because this fight is great, and you've been in a long ass time, right? Not to date you, but you've been in a long ass time. You're fighting because of what it's done for you. You're fighting because of what you know it can do for others. You're continuing to stay in this game because it provides you with wellness. Because it heals our entire endocrine system, right? Like that's what allows us to lock arms and sit here and be patient tonight and wait for how long it took to get started because we're so chill. Sorry, you just made me laugh. You said touch the earth. I was like, that's wellness.
Yes. Yes. So we can get to the last question.
First. We changing the order.
Hold on. This is for everybody. This one's the last one we have here, right? So at CANiPRENEUR, we thoroughly believe that cannabis is a three-legged stool. And I mean that every time I say that. And we need to move together, right? It doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you were on. It doesn't matter where you came from. Like, very rich people in this industry, very poor people in this industry. People have been healed, and people have been killed for this planet. for generations, right? So the last question I'm gonna ask, this one's open, right? Because I want everybody on stage to be thriving as we enter what I call Cannabis 3.0, right? Cannabis 1.0, we were all illegally operating, right? Cannabis 2.0 was when we started to move over into legality. You know, it wasn't just prostitution. Shout out to prostitution, by the way. 2.5 was in the pandemic. We were kind of in purgatory, right? Now we're going into 3.0.
I have a lot more numbers on my scale.
The sharks are here. The sharks are here, right? And we are all swimming in infested waters, right? So,
We always have been, though. The sharks are just different.
So how do we best position ourselves as a community all together? Because we're all going to be in this space. How do we better position ourselves for success as a community?
This is totally.
Oh, come on.
Ladies first.
That's sexist. He said ladies first.
All the feminists in the room stand up.
Give it to me one more time, Rico, because Jason, I thought you were
Alright, so we all need each other, right? Doesn't matter what color we are, doesn't matter how rich or how poor we are, we all need each other to move forward. Period. You know, the business community, you know, I have two companies go public, right? I didn't make really much money off of it. Why? Because they didn't understand that you need that connection to the community. We had a bunch of like really deep-pocketed individuals come down from Canada. So that's public. They lost so much money because they thought they can do in Massachusetts what we did in California. They just didn't understand that, right? And then we have a lot of people, a lot of my own boys that come from the trap, excellent brands, excellent community operators. They don't know how to run a fucking business. Then you have a wellness community, right? They're in two places at once, right? You have the medical side, and then you have like the truly holistic, you know, healers that have been doing what they've been doing for generations. And like it or not, like that's where the world's going.
Because they need it.
How do we move together into the next phase and make sure that the community, the communal aspect survives?
I say it's time to start having some war rooms, you know, some real think tanks. We have the right people at the table that are orchestrating the plan and creating the infrastructure, that are respected enough to know that they didn't move with hidden agendas. And then we use the resources like CANiVISION. You know, I do recall on the first question you mentioned about the sharks. You know, and when we start addressing people and not move fearfully to speaking the truth and saying who's doing right and who's doing wrong. And then we got to call them out. And then we start separating, you know, who's the real and who's not. And then we move with the real. Right? That's how we go. You know, y'all, we out of time. We out of time. We out of time for the fakeness. We out of time for just withstanding the mediocrity. You know, just accepting it like, oh, well, you know, it's with that 50 million that we were just fighting and had that press conference. And we're like, well, just settle. No, we're really not. We tried that. We tried, okay, we'll wait. And then they keep pushing us back further and further. So it's just now start moving on the defense, you know, start acting like you know what to do and plan and execute. It's really simple, and it's enough of us that are ready to do it. We're all saying the same thing. That's the great part of this period. Now we're all itching and waiting to be, and we actually have a better sight because we spent a lot of time with ourselves, whether we liked it or not. You had to spend time with yourself. When in history has that happened? When you were forced to spend time with yourself, you didn't have a choice, and so we all should be moving on a little bit higher plane, and some of us a lot higher because we did some really good things and good self-work during this time.
Right. So
this 3.0 or 10.0 where you at, you know what I'm saying? You know, we start bringing all of that energy together with each other. And once again, stop doing all the talking and act like we're in Games of Thrones or something, because we are when we talk a bit about the big corporations, right? And I think too many of them are sitting in the room with us today, so we know what we're up against, and that's the one unified effort that we can all move and roll on. And we gotta put community first. That is the center. That's where the healing you gotta get in order to get. We don't keep hitting these ceilings and keep having discourse if we don't do it that way. And that needs to be the center of our conversations. I was looking at UCBA and Andrew Westphal putting forth this ballot measure. And I looked at that and said, is community first at the bottom of this new ballot measure that's coming out? Oh, it's taxes? That's not going to work. We can't keep repeating the same thing and expect different results. And so once again, I just give y'all props for what you're putting together, coming out of this into this. Because this is what we need, and this is how we do it, and I'm here for it. Now Jason is on.
Some of you talked about, in the past segment, having started thinking about this a little bit, and, there's an old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think our community as a whole really needs to come back into that. And us, when we're using our language, we need to switch it from the I or the me and switch that to the we. You know what I mean? And so that really needs to be the focus. Like, I don't know how many social equity applicants all know each other, but in all reality, all of you guys should all be talking with one another and have this like big group chain that you guys are all communicating on to communicate within the network, because if you guys are all stronger, if you guys are all seeing and looking at everything from the same playing field and able to better each other. Like, one person's good at this, but the most knowledgeable person in the room is the person that knows what they're not good at and knows how to find those people that are good at that.
And Ms. Candace?
Having intelligent conversations without knowing everything, right?
That's right.
I would say, in order for us to center, we have to find our centers. And that comes from the heart. So we need to do heart-centered work, whatever that work is. So wherever you are in the supply chain, whatever kind of business you're trying to start, wherever you're entering the space, first start with your heart. Like, why are you here? What are you trying to do? And what is the end goal? And who are you trying to serve? And if it's anyone other than yourself, you're probably not going to win, because that's not the direction we're going. We find our center by listening to each other and by meeting people where they are. So we can only share and educate if we treat people the way they want to be treated. So from a wellness perspective, ask your heart. Do that work, and the money will come.
I think a lot of it too is about like remaining true to yourself and to your goals on why you initially want to be in the space in the first place. And from my standpoint, I was homeless from 15 to 21. I turned a pager into a storefront, and it was a life-changing thing at that time. And when I came into the industry, there was only 15 of us in the entire state of California. There was nothing anywhere else in the entire country. And so it was a whole different mentality then, as far as we were on that front line. When we would have our consortium meetings of all the dispensary owners, we really were, possibly all going to be indicted with conspiracy charges back then. Because anytime you have three, you have a conspiracy. And that's what 90% of the people sitting in the federal prison system are convicted of is conspiracy, because it's much easier to prove conspiracy than anything else. And the feds have a 90% conviction rate, and that's just kind of what it comes down to. And so there's so many times when cannabis was at its infancy that we could have been wiped out, and none of this, what we're seeing today, is even a reality or realistic. But one of the main reasons, I also have cerebral palsy, so cannabis is something that truly helps me medically as well. And so when I got into this, it wasn't just because of the hype and whatever. I wanted to also help people, but I also, even more than that, of helping myself, I wanted to also create jobs and an industry for a number of my friends that I knew were not capable of holding traditional 9-to-5 jobs because they just didn't have it in them. But yet they could still be good stay-at-home dads, grow some weed, pay their child support, whatever they got to do. They weren't meant to society and didn't need to be treated in that same type of level. And so that's what, yeah, exactly right.
I love it, love it, love it. We are out of time, so I'm going to ask each of you just a quick, 30 seconds, please. Let everybody know if you have any initiatives going on, what they should look out for, and where to find you. And we do have to close it out. We are at time, so please.
I'll make it quick, y'all. On Juneteenth, we're having our soft opening ribbon cutting for our Gorilla RX dispensary on Crenshaw. I grew up in those days for the Juneteenth festival. It happened in Lamar Park. At Big Kika is my Instagram, so we keep all the progress and the updates on there. And then most importantly, our initiatives right now that we're pushing, if you got a cell phone and text to 55469, 55469, if you text Equity Now, one word, Equity Now, you'll see our initiatives with the state, and then we'll be able to communicate the things that are happening in the city, and as we go and move, it'll be our action line of information. Because the biggest thing is we need folks to make phone calls. You call them public comments. The big thing about this COVID thing is everything is on Zoom still. So, to be able to effectuate change, it only takes 10 or 12 people calling up to the Senate hearing that nobody knows about and saying the same comment and the same talking points. And we just saw that work, and we got that $50 million approved today at the Senate and the Assembly. So we need more voices because my usual crew, sometimes they get tired of these meetings becoming back to back, so it's always good to be able to shoot it out. If you're not doing something, hop on the call, send the email, we'll keep y'all informed. Once again, 55469. Text Equity Now, we'll keep y'all updated, and thanks so much for allowing me to amplify our voices.
Absolutely.
So one thing that we are working on the state level currently is a bill that is a fixed semi for Prop 64. What we're trying to do is eliminate the cultivation tax. Another thing I would like to get included in there is I would like to eliminate the distribution model. Not that we don't need distribution, but as far as there's no reason that a cultivator should have to be able to sell to a retailer as far as a finished product. There's no as an artificial 20% tax on everything just by that one step alone. And that's something that legislators could easily fix and change in the model. I'm not saying not to use distribution for testing, because I think that's a strong component, so I don't want people to get misconstrued what I'm saying. But as far as a cultivator that just has a cultivating license, them being able to self-distribute their product when it's in final form to the end retailer should be a viable option. That's an easy legislative fix, and that will lower the cost of that price at least 20% to the end consumer, and that's something really important that we need to do.
Where can people find you, Jason?
You can find me on Instagram at JasonBeck420, and I'm also on Clubhouse. You can find me at Cannabis Policy, or make sure you check Rico and myself out on the Cannabis News Hour from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday.
Love the Cannabis News Hour. I learned a lot there. So let's do it. What was the question?
Tell the good people any initiatives you have going on. And where to
Oh
find
man,
you.
this 18 months have done something amazing to Club Kindness. We have decided to transition from a direct-to-consumer association to a Roku channel that will be coming this fall. Cannabis inclusive, not cannabis centered, because what I've learned from the last 7 years is that in order for us to really reach the people that we need to reach, we need to educate them on cannabis. And so we gotta go to them. We gotta say, hey, look, we're over here smoking weed every day, still on your job with you. And so we want to bring what we are calling representative media to really educate families, foster connections, and sustain communities for impactful social change. So look out for Club Kindness TV coming this fall. We're bringing cannabis forward. My name is Ms. Kindness. It's MSKINDNESS. I guarantee if you all just ask Siri right now about Ms. Kindness, you will find me, and I am proud of that. Thank you, Daddy.
I'm sad. Hey, Laura's daddy, my daughter.
There we go, MsKindness.com leads you to all of the projects that we're currently working on.
So thank you all for coming out. Can everybody in the crowd please give these beautiful people a We need more conversations like this across areas, across different sections of the industry, because we need each other to move forward, period. All right, so I appreciate everybody coming out. This is not our regular format at all. We just really need to have a family conversation. I thank you all for coming out here. So at the end of every single month, every last Thursday of the month, lots of brands can come in here. We can actually consume outside. Right? We're selling shit, you know. You gotta keep it above. You know, so we can reach.
We can
Cannabis 10.
We can
We
give.
can gift a lot though. So there'll be lots of sponsor opportunities, there'll be lots of equity opportunities, there'll be a lot of space for people to get their messaging out. So I want to give a huge, huge, huge thank you for not just you guys, but also to Club Kush coming out here, Big Kush J, Swim on 1 and 2, keeping it out there, and also to Driplicious, Sharon Seymour in the back of the room, the Nathan's Kindness, excellent food, and the biggest shout out obviously to where's Matt at? Matt Young, A-Pop Media. For providing this beautiful space for us to come out here and do our thing. After everybody at home, I want to bring my partner Fred out real quick. You got something to say, Fred?
Yeah, thank y'all. Seriously, y'all have a good time? Yeah. All right, cool. So here's my action step. Here's my challenge to you. Right here, we have my business card. Text me. You become a part of our community that we're just talking about right here. All right, so we can have reasons or we can have results. You know what I'm saying? I'm a results-oriented kind of person. So my challenge to you is literally text anything that we're putting out. It's going to go out just like that. So because my biggest thing is that I really prefer when, like, you know, we're super connectors, right? So we look at CANiPRENEUR as a super conductor for the super connectors. Does that make sense? So people who really want a nice path to come out here and learn the game the right way. That's why this was started, all right? So that's why we want to have a trusted, vetted network. This is like the Justice Hall League or whatever you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? We all exchange, you know, it's supposed to be a safe space, and we weed the wrong people out. We purge right people to come in. Because we need to start duplicating. Everybody else is doing it, right? So thank y'all so much. I really love it. And Rico, thank you, my brother, for being here. I like to help and bring, so let's love my brother.
What's up, everybody? Please remember, the black people, y'all know who plays Elf to Turn? You got to turn up, baby.
Come on.
Hey, I'll be back. And check us out, CANiVISION.global on Instagram, and also,
Like some more.
yeah, please.
Bring that music back, teachers!
We're having drinks for y'all in y'all next spot. Please help us kill some of that shit in the fridge. Please grab up a big shout out to Triple C Farms. 3C Farms, my man Wayland was already playing. Thank you much love. We send him Wayland to the place also. And y'all gotta go home yet. If you can help us, if y'all can stick around, please help us clean up after yourselves. Much love. And DJ, beat. Beatbox. All right, y'all.